Scripture reading 7:8. Ephraim has mixed himself among the peoples. Ephraim is a cake unturned.
Good morning. It is good to be with you on this beautiful Lord's Day. We had our first frost this morning at the house. May have been the first frost at your house. That means the leaves are really going to be turning now. And so we always have a beautiful area in which to live. We need to thank God for that as well. When we look at the Bible, oftentimes what we see is when we read a portion of Scripture, sometimes our minds will take us to a certain geographical area. Maybe a geographical scene will come to our minds. For instance, when we look at the book of Acts chapter 16, we may think of Lydia, and we may envision in our mind when we read a passage about her being on the banks of a river. We may have in our minds a bank and a river scene when we read that passage. We will maybe look at the book of Matthew chapter 17 and think about the Mount of Transfiguration and think about Jesus being there with Peter, James, and John on a very high mountain. And oftentimes scholars may say, or some scholars may say, that this is Mount Hermon, which is the highest mount there in the area. Don't know if that was it or not, but we have a scene of a mountain. Other times it could be the Valley of Elah from 1 Samuel chapter 17, where David slew Goliath, and we have in our minds a scene of a valley with a hill, with hills on one side and hills on the other, and they come down and fight in that valley. Sometimes we may think about Mark chapter 4, as we looked at last week, and where Jesus comes in the storm on the sea. Our minds take us back to that geographical area known as the Sea of Galilee. And then we can come to the Jordan River. When we read passages such as from the book of Joshua, where the children of Israel began in Joshua chapter 6 to take and possess the land that was promised unto them, they first had to cross over the Jordan River. And remember that water stopped running. And there was a wall on one side, and the water just kept on running through until it was dry ground, and they went. Now, this would have been about flood stage at that time. So you think about flood stage, waters, very high waters. And oftentimes those waters would reach a depth of 12 feet or more high. And so here, the water's just standing still in the Jordan River. We think about Elijah and Elisha. Remember, the waters were parted there as well when he gave his cloak. And then we think about also the Jordan River as far as pertaining to John's baptism. And all those who would have been baptized, possibly on the day of Pentecost, in the Jordan River for the remission of their sins. But our lesson text today takes us to a very different place. Not so much a geographical area, but it takes us to the kitchen of a woman, you might say, a kitchen in a house, some 2,800 years ago. Because there's a phrase there, use 6 words. 6 words out of the book of Hosea having 5,175 words. These 6 words stick out in our minds as we look at this. It says this in Hosea chapter 7, verse 8, and when we look at this, John just read it, Ephraim has mixed himself among the peoples. And here's the 6 words. Ephraim is a cake not turned. Those 6 words stick out in our minds. The New King James Version says Ephraim is a cake unturned. The King James Version says Ephraim is a cake not turned. And the New American Standard Bible says Ephraim mixes himself with the nations. Ephraim has become a cake not turned. Hosea uses this cake not turned to illustrate the spiritual condition of the northern kingdom at that time. Hosea was a contemporary with Isaiah and Micah. He He was a prophet for 45 years. And a matter of fact, the span of the book of Hosea is 45 years. And so when we look at Hosea being a prophet contemporary with Isaiah and Micah, we need to realize he's also contemporary with Jeremiah. Jeremiah was sent to the southern tribes. But here, around the same time, Hosea is with the northern kingdom. You know what's sad is that God is trying to save that kingdom by sending them his prophet. I love the book of Hosea. When we look at the book of Hosea, I want you to notice the very first verse in chapter 1. It says, the word of the Lord that came unto Hosea, the son of Uri. Now when we think about the word of the Lord coming, Hosea was inspired. He was a prophet of the Lord. When you look down at verse 10, there is a prophecy here concerning the Gentiles and Jews both going to be able one day to be called children of God. Not just the Jews, but the Gentiles. When you look at verse 10, yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, there it shall be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living God. And we find that, don't we, over in the New Testament. So here is a prophecy of the God accepting the Gentiles as well as the Jews. When we think about this last effort of God showing grace to the northern kingdom, and by the way, the tribe of Ephraim oftentimes is a name used to stand for the whole. It was the largest tribe of the 10 northern tribes, but it was used, Ephraim, that name was used to stand oftentimes for the whole. And what God is saying here in Hosea chapter 7, verse 8, my people are like a cake not turned. One commentator put it like this, listen to this, what we see in the prophecy of Hosea are the last dew swirls as the kingdom of Israel goes down the drain. You ever watch the child, when you give a child or a baby a bath, they'll watch the water begin to go down. You see the swirl begin to go. This is God's attempt and effort to put a plug in the drain. I'm going to send Hosea, my prophet. And I want Hosea, I'm going to put my words in his mouth. He's going to speak what they need to hear. And of course, oftentimes, just like with the other prophets, they did not like what they heard. We see this cooking lesson, don't we? A cake not turned. The cake being spoken of here is a cake. Oftentimes, if you have a house or a dwelling place, they would sweep the corner of the floor. And they would make a dough out, put this dough and mash it out in a circular shape. And that's what the word cake there means. It means a circle or circular. They would put that down and they would put hot coals over it. And it would cook that one side. Then they'd have to take those coals off and turn the cake over and then put the coals back on and cook the other side. What's interesting here, we have a picture oftentimes in our mind when we think about that of certain things that we have today. But I want us to notice, if it remained on one side too long, the side with the coals would burn. It would be fit for nothing. It would be no good at all. How would you like it if you went to a restaurant and you ordered pancakes? And they brought you out a pancake. And that pancake on the side that they had showing was done. Done. It was almost crisp, almost too done. And you put your fork in it, and the rest of it began to ooze out the bottom. What would you think? It's not fit to eat. It's not fit for anything. It's no good. It needs to be thrown in the trash. And I want another one. How do you think God felt about his children? My people are like a cake not turned. When we think about this, we also think about sometimes cornbread and waffles. But you get the picture. You see, Ephraim had mixed itself with other people. They had become idolatrous. And God was trying to save them. They had mingled themselves with the nations. There is a sense here that unfortunately, they were a cake not turned. You know, many Christians today are like that cake not turned. We're going to look at how people are like a cake not turned this morning. A Christian can be a cake can be like a cake not turned if a Christian may dwell or be well done on the outward, but not on the inward. You ever thought about that? May be done and well done on the outside, but not on the inside. Matthew chapter 15 and verse 8. These people draw nigh to me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. And in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrine the commandments of men. So when we see here in Matthew chapter 15 and verse 8, here is a people, there is a people at that time that were well done on the outside, but not on the inside. They were like that cake, not turned. Oh, they looked good on that one side, but yet they were fit for nothing. Matthew chapter 23, verses 25 through 28. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees. And listen to the word Jesus used here. Hypocrites. For you cleanse the outside of the cup and dish, but the inside are full of extortion and self-indulgence. I'm not one that likes to wash dishes. I'll be the first to tell you. But I'll tell you this, I make sure that I wash the inside of the cup, and I wash the plate on the surface, not just the outside of the plate. Why would you like to go to a restaurant? Have you ever been to a restaurant before where they serve you something, and there's something on the plate, and it's hard on the plate? It was there before they put your food on there. What about a cup? You ever gotten something and you look? And folks, this is how God looks at it. This is how Christ looks at being done on the outward and not on the inward. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you are like whitewashed tombs, which indeed appear beautiful outwardly, but inward are full of dead men's bones and all uncleanness.